3 costly mistakes 97% of you are making on Threads and how to fix them today. The problem that I've seen many of you make on Threads is you're posting consistently, but the audience growth isn't there. The engagement rate is low. People either aren't following you, or even if they are following you, they don't do anything. They don't comment on it. They don't repost all the stuff that ideally you would like these followers to do. It's obviously frustrating, but it makes you think, what is this all for? Is this just a waste of time? And if this resonates with you, let me know. This was where I was at 18 months ago. Since then, I've spent a ridiculous amount of time, 2,500 hours studying Threads. Over all of that time, I've noticed that all the top creators on Threads have these 3 things in common. Firstly, and arguably most importantly, they speak confidently in their writing. Secondly, they create valuable content. And you'll think, okay, duh, obviously it's going to be valuable, but I have tactical ways that we can create valuable content. And it's one of those things where it's like the 80-20 principle. Focus on one thing and you'll get these outsized returns. It's very high leverage. And then finally, they also have a content strategy that keep people coming back, because without the strategy, you're just chasing your tail and you don't feel like you're achieving meaningful results over the long run. So these are the things I want to discuss with you in this class. And my promise is that if you fix these 3 mistakes, you'll be able to build an audience that listens. When you hit that post button, the posting anxiety is real. I still feel it even after posting 2,000 times, but it will be much less so because you know that there are people out there that want to listen to what you have to say. Also, you'll be able to publish content that positions you as an authority. This is where the confidence really comes into play. And then finally, you'll have a strategy that will guarantee you long-term growth. And I'd say that, honestly, my results are that I hit 12K on Threads yesterday or the day before, and 18 months ago I was at 17K. It's not the fastest growth, but it's also not the slowest growth. It's very consistent, and so much so that it's pretty much been the same growth month after month for the last 12 months. And it's not because I do anything really special. Everything is a result of posting 3 times a day, always having an open mind to learning new things. Our plan is I'm going to break down what each mistake is. I'm going to show you what that actually looks like in practice, and then give you actionable solutions to fix each one of them. Mistake number 1. As you can see here, these are our 3 mistakes. We've got no confidence, we've got shitty hooks, and we've got no strategy. Let's look at no confidence first. This is the one that is arguably the hardest to get around, because the hooks thing is more of a tactical thing, but the no confidence thing is more of it's an internal thing. It's something that you have to find your own peace of mind with and your own version that works for you. And it will make sense as we go through this in more depth. Basically, what this mistake looks like on Threads is posting passive, unsure, or generic statements. You're never sharing strong opinions or taking a stance, and you're using weak language. So what does that actually look like in practice? For example, I think writing online is important, but maybe it's not for everyone. Just my thoughts. Versus, writing online is the number 1 way to change your life. If you're not posting daily, you're missing out on massive opportunities. Here's why. It's a clear example of what not having confidence looks like in your writing versus having confidence. If you have any thoughts, Chastity or Juliana, about what's different in the words themselves here, let me know, put it in the chat or speak up. If you have any thoughts on the words in the example of what not to do, let me know. It comes down to the specific word choice.
It makes it sound like you're hesitating, like you don't know if you want to say it.
The I think part, that is a big factor. And sorry, welcome to college class. Great to have you. The words I think. Here, I like to actually zoom out when I was trying to wrap my head around this whole thing of confidence, because initially I was making these mistakes. The hard thing is, and this is something that I want to help you basically shortcut, it was much easier to fix this mistake once I started to gain authority on Threads. Because say if you have this is just a basic example, say if you have a medicine degree and then you write a post on Threads about medicine, regardless of how many followers you have, you probably feel pretty confident in how you write about that because you've studied for so many years. Like I had the proof to show that what I was writing about on Threads growth, like I had that proof in terms of the growth I'd had. So the point is that when you don't have confidence in your writing, it's normally because you don't have the proof of the results. Let that sink in.
So I love that and how you explain that because I know I dealt with that and what I teach I've been doing for 15 years. I wasn't confident. I was too worried about how my thought would come across, which is very weird, right? Because I'm like your typical New Yorker. I don't give a shit about anything.
Well,
But when it,
that's what helped us connect so well.
but it's like when it's online, it feels like it's forever etched in stone and you can't take things back. When I became clear on what I was doing, my clarity led to my confidence. And then that led to me, you had preached in a group, just speak on what you know. And then the imposter syndrome goes out the window. I think that's where we get imposter syndrome, when we're not clear on our mission, you can't be confident, and then you feel like you're talking shit, basically. That's really important to drill into everybody's heads. I love the way you used because exactly what Juliana said is hesitating. You're not sure. Take those words.
For sure. Exactly what you just said. It's spot on because this is its own type of writing on Threads, just online generally. I know when I studied law, this was a good example of what we should do because we can't speak in absolutes in the context of the law because it's all gray. So as I was starting to write on Threads, I had to completely rewire the way that I wrote because it was a completely different thing. The point I make there is that this is not easy, and many of us struggle with it because of our experience in other disciplines or even just what we were taught about at school, where the whole writing confidently thing and using these absolute terms and not having the nuance there, it's not natural. So I mentioned that this does not come easy and it just takes a lot of practice, but a tactical way that you can actually overcome the lack of confidence in your writing is that it's almost a result of the proof that you get. You want to have the results in something you're doing. And the way you get those results is to work at it and study it for a while and then make known the amount of work you've done. For example, remember how I said in my introduction, I spent 2,500 hours studying Threads. My hope is that most people would hear that and think, all right, this guy knows his shit. I should probably listen because it's a ridiculous amount of time. And you would hope that time was like, I learned a few things. So that's the proof there. And now that I've told you that proof, and I'm acknowledging it internally, I feel more confident to speak about the results and the things I've learned. That's an example. But also, so the analogy here is when you're not speaking confidently, imagine you're doing a speech, public speaking. In many ways, Threads is like public speaking, but asynchronous. Imagine you're giving a synchronous live speech, and I'm talking like this. And hello, everyone. My name is Lennox. Have you had a good day today? It's not a vibe. It's not going to do much for anyone. We can't convey tone of voice and inflection through our writing, but we can convey the same thing through the diction, the choice of words that we use. I've got a framework here. It's not mine. It's Mr. Hormozi's. Before we go into how we can start becoming more confident in our writing, does anyone have any questions about what we've discussed so far in terms of why the lack of confidence is a number one mistake on Threads and just in the differences of what confident writing looks like? Any questions about this so far? Chastity, Juliana, Ansari?
No, it makes sense.
Okay. So as I said, the framework for creating a compelling character. I'll put the link to this in the chat so you can all have your own copy. I recommend jotting a few points down if you can. You can get something tactical from this while we go. But this is a framework that Alex Hormozi was sharing in one of the school games Q&A calls from not this week, but last week. And then this is just how I turned it into a table. And he was talking about this in the context of becoming someone interesting to follow on social media. I've put it as something we can use to speak more confidently. Once we map out these things, we make them known through our content, and it becomes like the result of that is you are speaking confidently because you're sharing your truths. I'm just going to type a few examples to show you what this would look like in terms of creating this table for yourself, and then how you might actually translate some of the information you jot down here into your content. To zoom out more, this is almost like your cheat sheet to who you are. So I might call this, for me, the Lennox Saint cheat sheet. And I think about this in terms of, okay, let's say, God forbid, I have amnesia. And tomorrow I need to figure out as easily as possible who Lennox Saint is in a nutshell. I'm handed this cheat sheet and I can get maybe the 80-20. Like 80% of what I am is represented in these things. Now, obviously, it's a big call, but hopefully you get the idea. For example, let's look at something like this, because think about the word follower and followers. Not on social media, but just the actual meaning of the word. Someone is following you. So that means, by definition, you are leading them. Where are you leading them away from? It's the enemy. When you can manufacture an enemy, it's much easier to lead people. It's much easier for people to start following you because there's a cause, the mission, the purpose. Harry Potter has Voldemort. It doesn't need to be so clear. In movies, it is clear because it makes it easy for the audience to understand. But for me, for instance, I talk about Threads growth. Does anyone have any ideas what the low-hanging fruit for an enemy of mine could be? And to give you a hint, what's the opposite or the enemy of Threads?
So what's the opposite of
Yeah.
Threads? Would it be? Do you mean the opposite of just text-based Instagram, or would you refer to more of
Twitter, as Bansari said, Twitter, X, they're at odds with one another. Less so now because Musk and Zuck are following a similar path, but that's outside the scope of this lesson. An easy one could be X. I've shit posted a bit about how Threads is better than X on Threads. Those posts tend to do pretty well because it's like I'm leading the way and having people follow me towards this idea of Threads and away from the enemy of X. It's an easy example, illustrates the point. Flaws. This one is huge. If you've read stories about people on Threads that resonated with you, chances are it was because they involved a lot of vulnerability. It was sharing your flaws. So for me, like, I have ADHD, suffered depression, failed at business, wasted 3,000 hours and $8 building an online course nobody wanted. These are not the easiest things to share. Every time I have shared them, not only have I felt this weight lifted off my shoulders, but people really resonate with it because it shows that you're human. In the age of AI, this is our unfair advantage. The people, I believe, especially on Threads, who are willing to share their flaws are the ones who will actually just accelerate their growth, both on Threads but as a human, fastest. Exceptional traits. So what am I good at? I'd say creating frameworks. Oh, that's handy. Oh, okay, you can still see. Cool. I just had a pop-up, but it didn't come up on your screen. So we're good. Crisis averted. So creating frameworks, being consistent, helping friends, a few things that come to mind. I'm jumping around, but just going based on what's jumping out to me. Likability and relatability allow personality to shine through your content. So look, I'll ask you to basically fill my ego. Chastity, putting you on the spot if you can. What was something that got you to join Saints College, for instance? Was it something about a piece of content? Was it something about the way I wrote? If you can remember, by all means, would love to get your take on it.
straightforward, and you don't use fluffy words. I hate fluffy words. I hate the marketing jargon, and because I was suffering from my own weird imposter syndrome, I was doing what I thought I was supposed to be doing per what on Instagram. And when we were introduced to Threads, I saw myself repeating the same habits, and you started coming up on my feed. I saw that you weren't doing any of that stuff, and it was working. People were liking your posts, and your likability was showing through. And it gave me a relief, like, oh, I don't have to put that mask on over here. I can just be me. So it was your straightforwardness, and you showed your personality, and you shared your flaws. I remember that. You shared your flaws, you shared some failures, and you were honest in your content.
Thank you very much. And hopefully for those who are listening, it proves the point of what this part of the compelling character cheat sheet represents. Chastity's just told us that it was basically, I was just being me, not using fluffy words. I was being straightforward, no marketing jargon. And those were some things that got Chastity interested in my content. And the fact that now Chastity's on this call is proof that being you works. And I like to think of this, it's an aside, but I define authenticity as reducing the gap between who you are when no one is watching and who you are when everyone is. What does that mean in practice? I try to share exactly who I am, what I'm about on Threads without sugarcoating it or saying it in some way that's unrealistic and only showing the good stuff and never sharing the bad stuff. That's ideally. I'll never get that right because I'm human and it's hard to be that raw. I try my best to be, but we always inherently want to try and put our best version forwards. But this is what I define authenticity as. And if you can internalize this definition and then make your content reflect that, you're on the right track. A tactical way I do this is that in person, I swear like a motherfucker. I don't want to censor myself online. And I know that it can be like quite divisive, but that's how I express myself. And it's never done to offend people. It's just because I find it a way of like really expressing the way I believe. And it's a way of showing my emotion and passion behind things. And I've thought about censoring myself in that way, but it's who I am. And I'm trying to reduce this gap between who I am when no one's watching and who I am when everyone is. So that's the likability and relatability. And I suppose that really relates to the distinct language, unique language and terminology. Here, so the fact that I swear a lot, that's kind of part of it. But what's something that's more specific and unique to you? To preface this, it's not like you just you say a phrase tomorrow in a post, and then now that's unique language to you. That's not it. This happens over months and years. So for me, in Saints College, maybe you've seen the term LFG a lot. I'd say that's a good example. And it's in line with just the fact that I swear a lot and LFG means let's fucking go. And it's also like bringing that energy. And I'd say that's a bit of a phrase that I've internalized and it's a part of our culture in Saints College. On Threads, fun fact, I created the Threads growth tag. I was the first one to use it. So that's my thing on Threads. You create your thing through repetition is really what I'm trying to say. And you don't figure it out and then do it. You do it and then figure it out. I didn't start on Threads by saying to myself, I'm going to create this term Threads growth and make it my thing. I had no idea. Same thing with LFG. It just happened. You'll create your unique language through time and reps. Associations, examples for me, Threads, obviously, school, red, yellow, and blue. In Saints College, I'd be shocked if you haven't noticed that red, yellow, and blue are the colors that are everywhere. Those mean things to me. Yellow represents self-improvement. Red represents online business. Blue represents wisdom. Specifically, like red is everything I'm doing in school. Red is like online business, like mental models. Blue is mental models. Yellow is like things like habits, productivity, etc. Each one has a meaning to me, and they're just scattered throughout Saints College. big goals and public progress. Here's an interesting tidbit. My growth from 17 to 10K followers, like, it had periods of being very fast because I had this hashtag or tag like the journey to 10K continues. That was literally a journey that people followed me on. And because I was like working towards something, it was an ambitious goal. I made it known pretty early on, like at 100 followers. It's like at 100 followers, I was like, who am I? Am I stupid for having this goal? Look at me. But then you just start to get your word out and people start to back that vision. So what is the vision that you are working towards and that people can get behind? Now, honestly, I haven't had that since I reached 10K on Threads. In terms of as the growth slowed down, it's been pretty consistent, but I would say it could be like better if I did have a new vision that I would make known on Threads. Couple more things, then we'll move on. This is the biggest one in terms of the time we're spending on it. The other two are not as much of a focus in today. Number one is most important for all the reasons we've already discussed. Core beliefs. These are the things, as well as your enemies, the beliefs in your enemies are the things that will gain you the most followers, period. For example, I'll use an extreme example because it will make sense to everyone here. And let me preface this by saying I'm not this. I'm just using it as an example. I'm a Trump supporter. I'm expressing no political views. I don't fuck with politics. How divisive is that? If that is my core belief, you're either on my side of the fence or you're not. And that's just the way American politics is. And, Chastity, you know that. It's divisive. It's you're red or you're blue. So if you're red, in terms of on social media, you're probably going to follow me because it's such a polarizing worldview. And if you're blue and you feel passionately about Dems, probably going to follow me because it's equally a polarizing worldview relative to the right. So if this is a core belief of mine and I've made that known, it's going to be easy for people to follow me because they will passionately agree with me. And if they don't, they simply just don't follow you. But this is why polarizing people go so far on social media. For better or worse, they express a strong perspective that other people feel strongly about. The fact that they're expressing that strong perspective makes those other people feel heard and they follow them. So the question becomes, what is the equivalent of this for you? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that you need to be controversial and polarizing just for the sake of it. I'm saying that, remember, these are beliefs. These are things that are deeply held within you. And I'm giving you permission now to share those because personally, I've found it quite liberating. And secondly, and less importantly, but relevant to what we're talking about, you'll grow like crazy on Threads. For instance, something that I've shared about is education system is broken. Not everyone agrees with that, although more people are increasingly by the day, but there are a lot of people who don't. But for those who do, they're likely to follow me because this is a perspective they believe in. And for those who don't, this is where the controversy on social media thing becomes a big factor. They're probably going to let you know about it in the comments. And what they're doing is essentially just boosting your post. Finally, evolution and origins. So what is my background story? I've already mentioned it. So the 3,000 hours, $80,000 thing. But also, I studied law for 6 years, then quit the day I graduated. Did English for 6 years. And honestly, the biggest part about my whole kind of backstory is my mum and how mum passed away in 2009 when I was 12. Yeah, my mum's had the biggest influence on everything I've done. Most relevantly, what we're doing here today. So this is stuff that I really enjoyed talking about. And this is why I've decided to kind of optimize for that. And everything else is a result of what happened here in 2009. So this is a core part of who I am. And coming back to this whole idea of authenticity, I'm reducing the gap between who I am when no one's watching and who I am when everyone is. I can't not share this part of me because that's not me being authentic. That also ties into sharing, like being vulnerable and getting uncomfortable with it because it's not the easiest thing to talk about. But as I've spoken about it more, I've realized that there's nothing to be afraid of. So that was a bit of a deep dive, I know, but hopefully you can all see just like the importance of mapping this stuff out for yourself, because again, it's like your cheat sheet for who you are. And great to get a thumbs up, Chastity. Juliana, awesome. Dan, sorry. Get some love, find this useful. Awesome. But having this means that, like, this is a basic version. The more in-depth it is, the easier it is for you to create content. And the way Hormozi described this is that it's like a mosaic. So imagine you've got like a piece of art and it has 10,000 little tiles in it. Each one of these bullet points represents a tile that you can plug and play in all of your content endlessly, because there are infinite iterations of those 10,000 tiles. And obviously, this is not something that's stagnant. You add to it and adjust it over time, because that implies you're growing as a human. So, any questions about the compelling character cheat sheet before we move on and touch on the final two things more quickly than we did for the first one? Everyone finding this useful? Reactions? Thumbs down, you're entitled to. Free speech, all that jazz. Cool. All right. Juliana, I'm happy to hear that. And by the way, I've put the Notion link in the chat. Here is the empty version, because obviously I filled out my own. And yeah, honestly, if you weren't filling out your own version, then I highly encourage you to. If you're like me, it's not something that it's like, it doesn't feel directly relevant to like writing a long form post on Threads. But I do promise you that having this stuff mapped out makes everything else easier. Because it gives you more certainty about what you write, and it means writer's block basically isn't a thing. Okay. That is no confidence. We spent the most time on that because it's the one that I've seen most people struggle with the most. The next mistake is shit hooks. And this one won't come as a surprise for most of you, because I think we're all aware that this is a big thing. And if you're not, please react. Let me know if you're not really aware of just what this represents, like why bad hooks is a big mistake. And I'll delve into the background information more. Essentially, the hook is the first sentence of a short post, or the top post of a long post. And over my time on Threads, I've realized that there are 5 key tactics that we can use to write amazing hooks that just work most of the time. Now, I'd love to say every time, but I still post things that flop. So that will greatly increase your likelihood of reaching your people because of these tactics. Before we get there, why is this a thing? Obviously, that outcome is nice, but why can't you just do it now? So it means that this stuff relates to what we're talking about before in terms of no confidence, but it's honestly as simple as business has, like, the simplest business funnel or the business like model that I know of is traffic on social media, leads, and then customers. So followers, leads, customers. So for me, that looks like Threads, Saints College, and then Full Circle, paid community. How do I get people? Like, let's begin with the end in mind. I believe that I can help people the best in Full Circle, because that's where it's got the most one-on-one time, accountability. It's hard to help 1,800 people in Saints College. It's much easier to help the 20 or so people we have in Full Circle. Simple as that. So if I'm beginning with the end in mind, how do I get people into Full Circle? I have to have some sort of traffic, and I have to have some sort of lead nurture. So then I work my way back all the way to the traffic, which is step 1. How do I get traffic? I need to post on social media. How do I post effectively on social media? I need to get attention. How do I get attention properly? I need to hook them. I mention all that to say that your ability to write hooks is literally make or break for every single thing you do online in business. Think about that for a second. I still struggle to wrap my head around how significant that is, Juliana, but it's pretty mind-blowing. It's true. If you can't hook people with the first line or the first 3 lines, literally nothing else matters. You can't get attention. You can't build your business. That being said, I'm just going to go straight into the tactics. And these are like, honestly, I think this is where is it? Where did it go? Had it up before. This post was posted on Threads about a month ago. And what this is literally just the content from that post. Let me make sure. I'll try and embed it just so you can see it. No, it's not there. All right. That's all right. But point being, I posted this on Threads. It did pretty well. I think it got around 200 likes, 10K views. I've had posts that have done much better in terms of vanity metrics, but I mentioned that to say, even though it wasn't my top performing post, this isn't it, by the way. This is just an example of using the principles here. Even though it wasn't my top performing post, I personally believe it was the most valuable post I've ever posted on Threads because of everything I just described in terms of how important hooks are. Here are the 5 tactics that I've learned and created or personalized from someone else over the past 18 months. The first one is open 2 loops. I'm not going to go into lots and lots of depth with these 5 because they're here and you can learn from them just in the Notion page yourself afterwards. So I'll just go over them in a bit more of a broader manner. But open 2 loops, this is probably the most complex one to understand. So if it doesn't make sense initially, don't worry about it. The others should be easier. The first sentence, you want to make people think, oh, like, how curious. That's different. I haven't seen that before, or that was a bit of a slap in the face, or, oh, wow, I've stopped scrolling now. For example, this first sentence, that is opening a loop. No likes. What about no likes? Sometimes I get no likes. I want to read more about this. Then the second loop, so that's a story loop. It's what is the story behind this first sentence? Because it's grabbed my attention. Now, this is the second loop, and it's the last sentence in the hook. Just for context, this is a long form post on Threads, and you can click on that in the Notion page to see the full thing, to see what I mean by a long form post, in case you're not already aware. Basically, there are several posts that come beneath this one. This is just the hook. And the second loop here is what I call a sentence loop. So the first one, no likes, story loop. It's like, what about no likes? It opens a story. The second loop is the last one, and this is a sentence loop in the sense that this sentence tells you that there is literally something that comes beneath or after it. So here's 5 reasons why your content sucks and how to fix it. It's telling you this sentence, like this sentence is telling you that directly below that sentence, you will see maybe the first reason. It's a sentence loop because it's getting you to continue reading the rest of the post. That's what 2 loops is. As I said, this one's probably the hardest to understand. The others are, in my opinion, much easier. The second tactic to know your hooks, this one is a recent learning of mine that I've just been testing, and it's also quite mind-blowing. Not only is your hook so important, but it's actually the first 5 words. So here, there are much more than 5 words. What this second tactic is telling us is that like your first 5 words of the hook need to grab people's attention. Because if they don't, your chance of holding or getting someone's attention anywhere else in the hook is greatly reduced. So, for example, you might have seen people start posts with, I'm 27. Is adhering to this tactic of the first 5 words. It's only 2. And it's also opening a loop, a story loop. Like, oh, this guy's 27. I wonder what his life has been about so far. What's the story here? So the first 5 words tactic is not saying it needs to be 5 words. It's saying that you need to effectively grab attention within the first 5 words, because if you don't, your chances of actually grabbing attention after them is as close to 0. With that in mind, we want to use the 90-10 principle, which is the third tactic. So everything that I've spoken about so far with how important the hook is, it would make sense that we spend 90% of our attention, 90% of our effort on the first 10% of the post, which is the hook. This is where most people go wrong. And this is something that I think, honestly, if there's one thing that you walk away with today that you actually change your behavior with, like you start implementing immediately, and forget everything else, it's the 90-10 principle. Spend 90% of the time you spend writing a post on the first 10% of it. Because if you don't nail the first 10%, the remaining 90% of it is a waste. No one's going to read it. It's a hard pill to swallow. It's the reality of it. So why would you spend most of your effort on that other 90% when the 10% is not great if that other 90% is never going to be read? This is really hard to wrap your head around because it can be quite demoralizing. Try to use this to your advantage now that you can use this to gain an unfair advantage. So how to do this? Write your post, then spend 5 to 10 minutes brain dumping hook ideas. So when I say brain dumping, I'll literally just put bullet points in Notion and just write anything, everything that comes to mind for 5 to 10 minutes. Then I will ask ChatGPT to rank them from best to worst. If you've got your own custom GPT, that's good as well. Just for example, I've got Threads GPT here, and yeah, it's not bad. Oh, maybe here. Yeah, so this is a hook that I got Threads GPT to write for me. It's a nice rhyme. Most people post story loop. Most people get ignored. The top 1%, they don't post randomly. They follow this system. Here's the 7-step blueprint to breakthrough. I think I'll probably be posting that, and it'll probably be a couple hours after this class. Depending on if you've got a custom GPT or whether you're just using ChatGPT, honestly, it can help you a lot to write a great hook, and it's at least worth trying because of how important hooks are. Proof Promise Plan. This has actually been updated to Proof Promise Plan. And the pain part is answering this question: why should your reader... You want to think of these as a checklist for your hook. What's the pain point? What's your proof? What's the promise? And then what's the plan to deliver that promise to your reader? So the pain is why your reader should care. Here in this example hook, no likes, no shares, no followers. This is addressing a pain point of not being heard or seen on Threads. Then I go into proof. I spent 2,500 hours studying Threads. That's my proof or my credibility, so that what I'm about to talk about is perceived as more valuable. Let me explain. Pretend that you haven't heard me just tell you what that hook is. I spent 2,500 hours studying Threads. And I'm going to give you 2 different versions of this hook. And now don't look at them or look at my screen. If you can, close your eyes, literally just listen to me. Here's version 1. No likes, no shares, no followers. Here's 5 reasons why your content sucks and how to fix it. Imagine you just saw that randomly scrolling on the feed from some random. That's version A. Version B is this. No likes, no shares, no followers. I spent 2,500 hours studying Threads. Here's 5 reasons why your content sucks and how to fix it. How much more valuable does version B sound to version A? What I've done here is I've framed the information that's in the rest of my post as something that is immensely valuable. It's like I'm giving you the gift of 2,500 hours of work in one post. So anyone who wants to write better content on Threads would be stupid not to at least have a skim through this, because there's a lot of proof there. And as a result, the information is more valuable. The promise is... it's a big one, Juliana. The promise is, so also pain point is why your content sucks. That's a slap in the face. It gets people's attention. And look, if people are reading this, it's hitting a pain point. If you know your content doesn't suck, you're not going to read it. Or at least you just want to give me some support, then you'd read it anyway, but you get what I'm saying. It gets people's attention. And then I'm saying, okay, this is how you can fix your content. And that's my promise here. And then the 4th element of the pain proof promise plan is the plan. So I'm promising you that you can fix your content by reading this post. And I'm telling you the plan of how I'm going to help you fix your content is through these 5 reasons and how to fix them. That's the 4th tactic. The final tactic is follow the 3-sentence rule. Long story short, I spent 5 months creating the hook book in Saints College. It's got 420 of the best viral posts I've seen. On average, all of those posts, the hooks have 3 sentences. Now, as you can see here, this is technically 5, but the first 3, they could be 1 sentence in terms of length. So the sentence thing is more of a guide on length than anything else. But I've found that the shorter you can pack, the more concisely you can pack the pain, the proof, the promise, and the plan into your hook, and ideally do that in 3 concise sentences, the better your hook will be. Because it means that you're being like every single character in your hook packs a punch and it earns its place in the hook. So those are the 5 tactics for hooks. Open 2 loops, nail the first 5 words, use the 90-10 principle, apply pain, proof, promise, plan, and follow the 3-sentence rule. Finally, and this is going to be the easiest one and the one that we can address pretty quickly, mistake number 3 is not having a strategy. So what this looks like, maybe you can relate. I know that so we have almost 1,900 people in Saints College, I believe, or maybe just over 1,800. Either way, a lot of people. And we've got over 2,000 comments in the Start Here post. Bjorn and I painstakingly looked through every single one of them 3 months ago and looked for the most common problem that people said they have on Threads. And it was consistency. That was the most common word. So it means if you're struggling with consistency, it implies you don't have a strategy. And that looks like you're randomly posting on Threads, you're being inconsistent with it, no real clear themes or structure, you're struggling to come up with ideas regularly. So look, my experience is that unless you've already got like a very established account, like I'm talking kind of Dan Coe level, 500,000 followers, the whole thing of posting 3 times a week on Threads, it doesn't work for most people. I know of one person in our community, name's Angela, shout out Angela if you're watching this, who gets away with this. I can't. But Angela will just post like 3 to 5 times a week and she'll grow extremely well because she's just nailed her niche. Her messaging is on point and the engagement is insane. I'd say Angela is the exception to the rule by far. The rest of us, the 3 times per week thing is, I just don't see it working unless you want to take decades. Example of what to do, by the way, like that example of posting 3 to 5 times a week and then posting randomly at that, not really having any intention behind your posts. The analogy is there, it's just like throwing darts in the dark. You don't know what's going to stick. The chances of hitting a bullseye are close to 0. What is the solution to this? You've probably heard me talk about this a lot. It's straightforward. There's a bit of nuance there. But the key things are post 3 times a day, write 1 long form a week from 500 followers onwards. Ideally, write 3 long forms a week from 1K followers. I'll make a little bit of structure to this in a second, but these are the key points. Write about 3 topics from 0 to 1K, niche down from 1K onwards, 0 to 500, engage like crazy from 0 to 1K, which means following lots of people you vibe with and commenting on lots of other people's posts. Start converting followers to leads from 1K onwards. Give as much free stuff as possible for as long as possible. Then when you can't do that equally for all your leads, create a paid offer. On this last point, what does this actually mean? Saints College got to around 1,200, maybe 1,300 members before I had any paid offer. Like you literally, unless I'm missing something obvious, but as far as I'm aware, like you literally couldn't pay me if you wanted to for from like March to November last year. There was nothing there. That was 8 months of me, like literally, I just wanted to help as many people as possible for as long as possible. Not because I had some like tactic, but just because I really liked doing it and I love doing this stuff. I wouldn't have done it for free because it's like literally the equivalent of a full-time job in terms of workload, just because I wanted to help. At that point, I could not literally provide like the level of help for all the people we had evenly and fairly. And it made sense for me to then monetize that. And obviously money is good and I want to make money. So that's a key factor too. But that's what this last point means. I know that's a bit of a brain dump, but those are the key things that like it's taken me over 2,500 hours to learn. This is me deconstructing my journey. And this is what I would do if I were starting from zero tomorrow. And that is the content strategy in how to make the posting thing easier. Because trust me, like I post 3 times a day for 18 months and it's not sustainable unless you have to be as clear as possible. And I'll put this as a quote because it's a good takeaway. Again, this one is something I've only learned in the last 3 to 4 months. Posting 3 times per day is not sustainable forever unless you use post templates. This has honestly been the biggest unlock for me because it means you can worry less about whether something will work and literally just post it because you know it does work. So what does this look like? I'll put up a screenshot in the chat. Let me just take a screenshot of my other Notion page. So it looks like something like this. And yeah, can you see this example? The screenshot on the page has post 1. Cool. Awesome. Great to know that you're still with me, Chastity and Juliana. I know we've gone a little bit over. Hopefully you're finding this valuable and we are like a couple minutes away from wrapping up, but I thought it'd be nice to try and complete the lesson. See that? This is what post templates look like for me, at least. And this is what, like, I created these for me because of the problem I noticed for myself of like, how do I make this sustainable forever? I don't want to just come and create new ideas every day, 3 times a day, because that's exhausting. What can I do to make this easy for myself? And the answer to that was post templates. And then because I solved that problem, now this is something we just like provide in full circle because it means that you don't have to think about what to post. You can just post knowing that it works. So this is what it looks like. Content has 3 elements, every piece of content. And in the context, they are the hook, which I've color-coded in yellow, the hold, which is in red, and then the help, which is in blue. So the hook hooks attention, the hold holds attention, and the help is here's a final thing to help you understand my message here. That might be a CTA, but I use the word help because it's a nice way to frame this idea of pitching on Threads. You're not pitching or selling anything, you're helping people. And whenever I think about framing a CTA to join Saints College through that lens of helping, I honestly tend to find the conversions are much higher. Coming back to what this idea of post template is, it's like a plug and play framework for a post that you put your own information in to personalize it. But you do this with the understanding that the general framework, it works. Like it's proven, and it's proven because you found examples of it. And you've seen the proof that like this really can work. It's not like I'm not throwing darts in the dark. It really does work. It's just a matter of using my own words to make it work. So what you could do here is, for example, actually, I'll get an example from the actual thing because that would make it much easier. What have we got here? So here's an example that was embedded in that toggle, but 1 second. So 14 psychological skills to master your life. Skills, and then there's a final question there, like what else would you add? And here, if I wanted to personalize this, I might, to make this relevant to me, I might say creators. That's a specific call out. And like almost everyone is a creator on Threads, but you're calling them out directly and it gets their attention. Then I might just say 9 skills to master if you want 1,000 followers by the end of February. Boom, boom. Master these and you'll be ahead of 99% of creators. Simple. Then a one-liner. So this is a listicle. That's the post type. A one-liner, same thing. The yellow part is the hook. The red part is the hold. And then the blue part is the help. So why do I bring these up? Because I encourage you to create your own versions of these if you want to create content on Threads indefinitely and you don't want to just quit posting. My truth is that you got to have at least something like this that works for you to make this sustainable. And as we know, if it's sustainable for you, then you can be consistent. And then with consistency, the results are pretty much guaranteed. So that's a tactical way to make the posts work for you, like 3 posts per day, and also with long forms, because there are long form templates as well that you can create, just make it so much easier. So with all of that being said, some key takeaways. The 3 mistakes are not speaking confidently. That would be number 1. Number 2 is writing bad hooks. And then number 3 is not having a strategy. It's hard to order them in terms of most important to least, but just, I suppose, what was most relevant for me and top of mind in terms of what I was seeing inside of Saints College is the not speaking confidently. Solutions: build a compelling character through that cheat sheet table is how you can speak more confidently. For writing bad hooks, use those 5 proven tactics to improve your writing. And then for not having a content strategy, basically create post templates. That's the more long-term thing. The more short-term thing is what these key steps represent. This sort of order of writing about 3 topics from 0 to 1K, engage crazy from 0 to 1K, post 3 times a day, write 1 long form a week from 500 followers onwards. Then from 1K, and then the key principle there, give as much free stuff as possible for as long as possible. That's a guiding principle. From 0 to 1K, those are some key steps you can take. And then from 1K onwards, start writing 3 long forms a week, niche down, start converting followers to leads, and create a paid offer once it gets too much to nurture the leads all as much equally. And those are the solutions. What will they help you do? You'll get more friends who trust and engage with your content. You'll have a personal brand that stands out, and you'll have a content system that keeps your growth consistent. Those are the 3 mistakes I see 97% of you make, and the 3 things you can do to fix them today.
0 o'clock introduction. Common mistakes on Threads. 0:06 identifying the problem. Lack of engagement. 0:46 the 3 key traits of top creators. 2:59 building confidence in your writing. 8:59 creating a compelling character. 16:11 the importance of authenticity. 18:03 mapping out your unique language. 27 07 addressing shitty hooks. 25 the importance of a good hook. 28 15 understanding the business funnel. 29 06 the role of social media traffic. 29 58 5 key tactics for writing hooks. 31 04 tactic 1 open 2 loops. 33 08 tactic 2 nail the first 5 words. 34 25 tactic 3 the 90 tenths principle. 36 49 tactic 4 and 5 pain proof promise plan and 3 sentence rule. 40 52 common mistake lack of strategy.